Hello, epic viewers from around the multiverse. I'm here to bask in unprecedented glory because today I'm going to illustrate what it feels like to be almost 30 years of age in this video. So, what does it feel like to be nearly 30 years old? Well, you acquiesce life. In other words, you try your utmost best to get ahead in your life, even though there's ample obstacles that stand in your way. And in spite of all this, you try to augment your lifestyle as best as you possibly can. Now, how does it feel? How was my life thus far in hindsight? In retrospect, do I have any qualms about my previous decades? Well, I've been relegated to school practically my whole life. I just recently earned a terminal degree, so I recently earned my doctorate, and now that's all behind me. I can focus on working full throttle, full-time instead of part-time. But being a full-time employee can be brutal, to say the least. Why? Well, if you work two jobs, if you have your full-time job in conjunction with a side hustle, then you're going to succumb to the agonizing reality of not getting any sleep. So every other night I've been getting 3 hours of sleep. And in the past, when I was a full-time student, be it a full-time graduate student, I was getting typically 2 hours of sleep a night, but I don't even have that luxury anymore. So now I'm getting less sleep than I used to in the past, which is debilitating, and it renders me frazzled, torpid, lethargic, and weary, to say the least. But what else can I expect? I mean, time is one of the key ingredients needed to earn revenue, and you can't generate revenue simultaneously while sleeping. So I need to earmark my time into working a job in order to make money. Now, of course, I can continue to monetize my intellectual capital, but being able to do that in its entirety is outside my purview, it's outside my imperium, it's outside the parameters of my control, because YouTube demonetizes nearly everything and Twitch extracts 100% of the advertising revenue that my streams draw forth. So the prospect of being able to earn royalties, the prospect of being able to generate passive income, the prospect of being able to live off annuities is something that seems unviable, to say the least. I don't have any money to invest into annuities. YouTube is not a lucrative prospect, or I should say, being a full-time creator on YouTube is not a lucrative prospect for an individual, because not only does YouTube demonetize nearly everything, but ad blocker is ubiquitous, and because of the prevalence of ad blocker, low CPMs and RPMs, and the demonetization transpiring on YouTube, it creates a recipe for disaster, and it creates an unviable prospect for any prospective content creator to be dependent on for their revenue. When it comes to Twitch, it's also non-viable as well, because if you want to earn an affiliate status on Twitch, you need to earn 3 concurrent viewers per live stream within the past 30 days. The conjunction was meaning this other superficial, artificial criterion, which is just ridiculous. And if you can't meet everything, if you can't have a minimum of 3 concurrent viewers per live stream within the past 30 days, then you can't apply for an affiliate status. If you can't become an affiliate, then you're barred from accepting bits, which are essentially donations earned through Twitch. So that prospect is also not a viable option as well. So then you have to succumb to the drudgery or the onerous burden of getting a job outside the confines of cyberspace. And I say it's an onerous burden because you have to drive from point A to point B, you have to commute, and then there's 8 forms of income tax, as you guys know. So if you are a private workforce participant, or if you have a real private sector job, that's a better way of phrasing it, then you're preordained to get extorted out of your hard-earned wealth or hard-earned revenue in the 8 forms of income tax. There's local income tax, state income tax, federal income tax, Social Security tax, Medicare tax, the Obamacare individual healthcare mandate penalty, inflation, which devalues your purchasing power, and that renders you more destitute and more indigent. And then the 8th form of income tax is that you have to hire an accountant to do your taxes. And if there were no taxation, you wouldn't need to hire an accountant to do your taxes. So it just deters you, it disincentivizes you from wanting to work full time. And then you're not also including the depreciation on your car, the gas costs, the maintenance on your car. So there's other factors that come into play. Plus your time is sacrosanct and valuable, precious, finite, and you don't want to deplete it working something that you absolutely detest and disdain doing. So in other words, when you're in your 30s, it can be an agonizing prospect because you just finished school. If you earned a doctorate, you may be severely indebted, and when you're laden, when your burden was debt, it just further sets you back because the interest accrues into the principal in perpetuity, and it creates a recipe for chronic destitution and chronic poverty. And it's arduous to get out of the muck and mire, especially when you're saddled with debt. As the interest accrues in the principal on a daily basis, the debt further and further amplifies to unprecedented degrees. Furthermore, if you want a high-paying job, you may have to move, but the increase in salary may be negated by the increase in overhead costs incurred by moving, so it doesn't warrant moving to get a much higher-paying job, at least from my perspective. And there's something else. Oh yeah, if you want to get a higher paying job locally, or a decent paying job locally, you likely need work experience working that particular job. But you can't get work experience working that particular job if you're not able to get the job in the first place. So that's the catch-22. It's kind of like the paradox. You need work experience to get the job, but you can't get the job without work experience. So it creates this impenetrable, insurmountable barrier to entry. And it's ridiculous. You have a myriad of work experience in other domains. You have maxed out educational credentials, and you're ready and willing to work, and you have the competence to do the job. You have the wherewithal to do the job, but you can't get the job because you don't have experience working that particular job. So, is it based on nepotism? Who's able to get their foot in the door? That's an enigma. I guess it varies per company. So, really, I've just been working, and I'll likely have to work in perpetuity. It's definitely debilitating and has a deleterious, detrimental effect on my health, as I get 0 hours of sleep every other night. I beseech my employer to change the work schedule so that I can work for them twice a week instead of full time, and apparently that change has been implemented. It's now in effect. I had to speak to a bunch of different managers. You have to sift through the managers and find one who has purview over the scheduling and see if he can implement the changes ASAP, because working the night shift is grueling, and it takes a toll against your mind, vessel, and spirit, to say the least. What else? Unfortunately, to my dismay, the price of housing is unequivocally unaffordable, and all you do when you're older is work and pay bills. So you may have a detestable job, but you may be paying bills full time, and you may be working in perpetuity. I remember my professor notifying me that life goes by fast, and it does transpire. in an expeditious manner. In other words, time waits for no man. So the truth of the matter is that when you're in your 30s, you'll likely be incessantly working. You won't have indefatigable energy. You won't have time to sleep. You won't have time to adequately eat. At the moment, at this juncture, at this confluence of time and space, I only eat 2 to 3 meals per week, 3 meals if I'm lucky, and I usually have to hasten the pace that I finish my meals at, which induces digestive distress because I'm extremely pressed for time, so I either have to choose between eating and sleeping, but I can't even partake in eating and sleeping as much as I like to. Eating and sleeping are a luxury. They're a blessing that God has rendered available to you. But if you need fiat currency to pay for everything, then you're going to have to sacrifice your eating time and your sleeping time to make ends meet. But of course, selling your time, expending your finite time for fiat currency is a recipe for destitution. It's truly a calamity because you're not going to be able to work 24/7. And if you try to work as much as you possibly can at the highest possible rate per hour, it's going to shave off years or decades of your life because you're neglecting your health. When you're doing a job you detest, that's agonizing, that induces severe inflammation from standing up all day, or that's grueling, to say the least. You're not going to be able to get adequate sleep. You're not going to be able to intake all the nutrients you need. You're not going to be able to exercise when you need to. You're not going to be able to have any spare time. I've allocated essentially 100% of my spare time towards my side hustles, which entail which entailed having created nearly 100,000 videos at this point, and which entailed cultivating brands out of thick air. So if you want to create 100,000 videos to upload to YouTube, it doesn't happen spontaneously out of nowhere. You have to dedicate the time, resources, and energy. So it comes at a cost. It will cost you your sleep, your spare time, and essentially your life. So when I look back, in other words, these past 3 decades, I haven't really had a modicum of fun. And I dreaded being a full-time student. I've done K through doctorate, and the experience was utterly appalling, to say the least. I've had some amazing professors, but it was just constant, incessant work, non-stop. And perhaps I was too adamant about getting a 4.0 GPA. In my doctoral program, I was able to attain a 4.0 GPA, which was one of my lifelong goals, but I mean, you don't need to get a 4.0 GPA in an MBA, doctoral, or undergraduate program. You could just pass and work on the side and enjoy your life. And while I was going to school, I was simultaneously working on growing my brands. I was working on my side hustles, so I had no spare time, and I would likely make an allowance for spare time one day out of every 4 to 6 months to socialize with a friend, but it still wasn't enough. So in other words, I've just been constantly working. I cannot punctuate that nor emphasize that enough. And I guess the only benefit to writing is that you hone your writing skills and that you build up your lexicon. But still, it's just been a very linear lifestyle for the most part, just constantly working nonstop, and then after school constantly working nonstop as well. So hopefully the trajectory of my life can get better. Hopefully I can attain sustenance by being a full-time content creator. I don't want to be dependent on having to relinquish my finite, precious, sacrosanct time for fiat currency. I'd rather live off advertising revenue if possible. But it doesn't seem to be viable at this juncture. But maybe if I create 1 million videos and upload those videos to YouTube, maybe I can have a future in which I can attain sustenance and then work towards attaining my higher aspirations. So I love to create stop motion videos with action figures. I love to be able to get more sleep. I love to be able to eat more. These are my goals in life. I love to be able to have a multitude of shelves in which I can display action figures on. Right now, I don't even have a mattress in my room, and I sleep on the floor. There's no space for a mattress. And whenever I sleep, someone typically barges in and the door collides against my foot. Now I sleep on the floor in a yoga mat. There's no other place to put the yoga mat other than in front of the door, and there's nothing to lock the door. There's no lock for the door, and there's nothing to lock the door with, because the door handle is completely defective and the lock is defective. So in other words, whenever someone comes in, I'm preordained to succumb to chronic inflammation, because they'll slam the door into my foot, and the pain will unequivocally be acute and indelible. But I have no other place to put in the yoga mat. There's nowhere else I could put the yoga mat other than in front of the door, because the elliptical and the treadmill consume nearly all the space in the room. So I love to be able to get my own house and sleep away from the door so that I don't get collided into each and every time someone comes in to disturb my slumber. And I almost never slumber, but they do come in to disturb me for my work. And time is precious, so I detest and disdain being unnecessarily disturbed. Other people's words to me are typically needless and unwarranted, so I prefer to not waste my finite time. But I guess, considering that I provided unprecedented value to the multiverse and a show that I've earned over 60 million video views, I guess it hasn't been all that bad per se. Because yes, even though I've had to tremendously sacrifice, let's rephrase that, let's revamp that, let's refine that. But as body spew from my vocal folds would have sounded detestable. But let's be more eloquent, to say the least. Even though I've had to succumb to making tremendous sacrifices, I guess it hasn't all been too bad from your perspective, because you get unprecedented value delivered to you for free. So in reality, when you look at the totality of everything that I accomplished, it hasn't been too bad, because even though it's taken a toll against my health, my body, my mind and spirit, etc., at least other people reaped unprecedented value out of it. You know, so many people have deemed my videos to be captivating, enthralling, entertaining, and have requested for me to make more and more and more videos. And even though it comes at a cost of my health, it comes at the benefit of your euphoria and your nirvana and your gleefulness. So it's allowing you to attain a more peaceful, euphoric lifestyle, even though it's causing me to submerge into an egregious level of health. So I hope that I can enhance my health in the pending future and build up my revenue high enough so that I could be fully financially independent, which would be an arduous feat to attain. But I want to be able to attain sustenance whilst being a full-time content creator. And after having created over 80,000 videos, I'm still going to have to work my shell off to reach my higher aspirations. But I mean, you should cut someone some slack who just finished school and should be able to understand their perspective. I've been confined to being a full-time student my whole life, K through doctorate. It drained nearly all my time. Any spare time I had, I allocated towards working. And if I didn't have to go to school, if there were no compulsory K through 12 concentration camps, if I could have allocated those years towards working, I likely wouldn't be in this situation. I likely wouldn't be in this predicament. But because school drains all your time, and because you're not provided any modicum of remuneration while being a full-time student, because tuition indebts you, and because school is so strenuous, it just culminates in essentially being a destitute, indigent. It essentially culminates in essentially being a destitute, indigent, impoverished, indebted peasant once you earn your degree and finish school. And shortly thereafter, you may not attain the job that you are qualified to attain due to hyper competition and oversaturation of the job market. We have 8 billion people, and we only have a finite amount of jobs that can be filled. People's jobs are being displaced with autonomous processes and machines. So if you're highly educated in a niche field and have the credentials to perform a niche job, you may have to move to attain a job in your field, and that's non-viable if you're submerged in debt that keeps accruing on a daily basis to an unprecedented degree. So really, to recapitulate, when you're 30, you'll likely succumb to distress from constantly working and constantly paying bills. You'll likely have to face a agonizing realization of being an indebted, indentured, destitute, impoverished individual that doesn't have sustenance because your income is too low and the cost of living is too high, and you're not getting the results you want from your side hustles. But it is what it is, and all you can do is try your utmost best. So I'm trying my utmost best to escape the muck and mire by delivering unprecedented value to the multiverse. The people are continuing to enjoy the content, and that's phenomenal, and that's quite a feat on my end, even if it doesn't render me the revenue necessary to attain sustenance. But I'll continue to try my utmost best to deliver unprecedented value to the multiverse, and hopefully I can attain at least a very low standard of living in the pending future. But the goal is to be able to meet my higher aspirations, be able to control my time, be able to eat when I want to, sleep when I want to, and of course create videos when I want to. And just hopefully in the future I could one day be able to enjoy my life. I would love to go to New York City again. I would love to buy more hunks of plastic, aka action figures that I've wanted for decades. I would love to be able to flaunt my action figures on shelves, which I don't have the luxury of having. As I said, this room, I love to be able to sleep for 16 to 24 hours a day in the pending future, so I could catch up on decades of hours lost due to severe chronic sleep deprivation. I'd love to be able to partake in eating for at least 20 hours a day. I'd love to be able to eat more fruits and vegetables. My 20-hour meals consist of fruits and vegetables and nothing else, and I love flutterizing every bite. I love succulent, zesty, scrumptious, piquant meals that stimulate my palate and that tickle my taste buds and that are sensational and ineffably divine, to say the least. God created the genomes for fruits and vegetables, and their tastes are outside the parameters of this multiverse, to say the least, because they were created by a higher power, aka God. God bestowed trees with the ability to churn out fruit and vegetables and be excavated from the ground. They grow without seeds. Botanically speaking, fruits and vegetables are disparate from one another because fruits have seeds embedded in them, whereas vegetables do not. So just bear that in mind, let that marinate into your mind, assimilate that knowledge, and remember it. So I just hope that my 40s won't be as agonizing as my teenage years, 20s, and early childhood. But it's just been truly a burdensome lifestyle throughout the past 3 decades, and I just hope that my life will get better in the pending future, and I'll make an earnest, diligent effort to work towards a better life so that at least one day I can attain sustenance in the future. And if I don't, then I don't, but at least I have no qualms about the way I chose to live my life, because I made an earnest, valiant effort to enhance my lifestyle and provide unprecedented value to the multiverse. So hopefully auspicious beginnings lie ahead, but if they're inauspicious, then that's outside of my control. I can only do my utmost best, but I can't have any qualms about my decisions because I'm exuding, I'm putting forth the maximum effort. So what more can I do? There's nothing more I can do. You could put forth the effort, but you have no control over the results, you know. But hopefully everything will turn out to be fruitful, but who knows? The future is enigmatic. Will I be able to sustain 2 or 3 full-time jobs? Will I be able to attain sustenance? Will these jobs decimate me from getting 0 hours of sleep every other night? Will there be a modicum of esperance from working dead-end jobs? Will there be a modicum of hope from having contractual jobs in which the employer views you as expendable capital livestock? I do not know. The future is enigmatic, but I'll continue to work hard to attain meaningful, worthwhile goals. I will continue to exude maximum effort, but I need to spend more time taking care of my vessel. So I need to get more sleep, and I need to get more food to consume, because it's pointless to have wealth if you're in poor health. So it's imperative as sailing to succumbent that I get REM sleep and that I eat more, because the benefits of having wealth and affluence are negated if none of your senses work. If you can barely move. I mean, no one would trade their visual prowess, aka their eyesight, for $5 billion, so this is a multi-billion-dollar machine, and it sucks to neglect it to earn fiat currency, but yet again you need fiat currency to purchase any good or service, so there's always a trade-off in life. There's always pros and cons with everything. Yeah, but the past 3 decades has been agonizing, and there really hasn't been a modicum of relief, but hopefully my life will be augmented and improve in the coming years if I put forth a diligent, earnest effort to grow my brands, further increase my credentials, and provide unprecedented value to the multiverse. So we'll see what transpires. The future is enigmatic. I hope for the best. Hopefully you guys have an enjoyable life in which you can relish every moment, in which you can revel in glory, and in which you can extract the maximum amount of value out of. Hopefully your lifestyle is not akin to mine in any way, shape, or form. Hopefully you guys have an enjoyable lifestyle, not an agonizing, brutal, dreadful one. So I hope for the best for every sentient being in the multiverse and everyone outside the multiverse. So I hope that you found this video to be insightful and enthralling. I'll try my utmost best to provide you guys this unprecedented value and improve my life, and I will not yield, I won't waver, I won't capitulate in spite of the impending challenges that lie ahead. Once again, I hope that you found this video to be intriguing. Have a wonderful, marvelous day. Goodbye.